We are almost to podcast number 50. We're at 49, so close. It is, what's the date? It is January 23rd. It's a Tuesday. I was supposed to do this yesterday, but that's not going to happen. I apologize. I kind of got my wife's schedule mixed up, and it just wasn't possible to do a podcast yesterday. So we're doing a podcast today, and boy, have we had some absolutely crazy winter weather here. It has felt like winter lately, but now it's going to start not feeling like winter. So we're going to talk about that today. You don't have to spend an arm and a leg on rods and reels. Skeet Reese is going to show you why you don't have to. And I am losing my absolute mind over Berkley's new forward-facing sonar lures. They're so good and so innovative. We're going to keep on talking about it. In this podcast, I talked about it the last podcast. Yeah, we're going to talk about it more. There was another ice fishing tragedy. So really terrible ice conditions this year. So you got to be so careful. And wait till you see this giant fish finder screen. I thought it couldn't be true, but it's true. And it's actually fantastic. But we've got so much more to talk about. Let's get started.
This isn't another fishing podcast. This is another fishing podcast.
It has been I am not going to lie. Last week was I don't even know what happened last week. It seems like a blur. I'll be honest with you. I wasn't nearly as productive as I should have been last week, but I'm a constant work in progress. So I was able to get some content out last week, but it was. I'm just going to end it on this particular topic. Me being a slacker, because that's kind of what it was last week. I was a bit of a slacker. But this is what I'm going to say from here on out. Okay. I'm not going to feel totally terrible about myself if I don't get, if I get one piece of content up a week. I'm not happy about it, but if I'm able to do it, I am going to feel better about myself if I'm kind of having let's put it this way, if I'm in a mode of where I'm slacking. This happens to me. It's something that I've thought about a lot. It's something I need to work on. I need to probably see a shrink, but I can be unbelievably lazy. Listen, most people won't admit it. I'm admitting it to you. It's something that I need to break myself of. And when you're a freelancer, you cannot be lazy, especially when you've lost a bunch of work last year. Okay? So I can't be lazy. Help me. Get after me in the comments. Dude, don't be lazy. You need to grow this channel. I succumbed a little bit to my laziness last week, so I do want to apologize for that. I did get a podcast out last week. I'm getting a podcast out this week. And I'm going to use a little bit of an excuse here. I am dealing with some really strange weather conditions right now, so I really don't like super cold. And last week it was super cold, but now we're going into a warming trend. So yes, I am a warm weather guy. Now I will ice fish. I like to ice fish, but winter is my least favorite time of year. I do not like winter. So it was freaking ridiculously cold. I'm trying to watch my language here a little bit. It was ridiculously cold last week. And I'm like, all right, well, it's winter now, and I'm just going to have to get used to this. And I looked at the little bit longer range forecast, and I was like, okay, it's starting to warm up a little bit. So that's when I'll go ice fishing. Well, the problem is, it's really warming up. Wait till you guys see this. So I can't believe that this is the long range. This does not make any sense for this to be the long range forecast in Minnesota in January into February. I cannot describe to you adequately how crazy this weather forecast is, okay? So the 24th, Wednesday, it goes 35 for a high. Next day, Thursday, 36. Friday, 39, 38, 37, 41, 44, 48. What next week? 51 on Thursday, Friday 51, 48, 46, 43, 39. Those are just absolutely unbelievable temperatures, hardly even getting below freezing at night. So what that is telling me is that I might not be ice fishing at all this year, which is like, I'm not like beat up about that, but there are some ice fishing opportunities I want to, partake in. But I think what's primarily going to happen is this is going to be a winter, and I'm excited about this because I love doing this, but this is primarily going to be a winter of smallmouth bass fishing on the Mississippi River and walleye fishing on the Mississippi River. So that is my plan for next week. And what I'm probably going to do is I'm going to do a podcast on Monday, okay? I'll do a podcast on Monday, but I think, and I'll probably make clips of it. Maybe I'll do a short. I'll probably do a short this week, maybe. So here's the thing. I'm leaving on Thursday with my wife. We're going to Nashville. I have no money to go to Nashville. I've been having panic attacks. I couldn't sleep last night because I'm looking into the future. I'm like, okay, I can get through the spring. I got enough work for the spring. But once I get to June, I'm like, okay, I don't have anything really scheduled so much right now. I'm getting nervous about just money. And now I'm going to Nashville with my wife on Thursday, celebrating a friend's 40th birthday. And I'm getting a little nervous about the lack of funds that I have available. I basically live a life where I'm just constantly, it's a balancing act, not getting too crazy. I don't like to work. I was just telling you how lazy I am. This is like a therapy session for me. I probably shouldn't even be telling you all this, but, I'm not one of these guys that just wants to be a workaholic. To me, I like to work, but and this is a bad thing. I'm not saying that I'm proud of this, okay? My problem is that I like to do work that's fun. It's work that I want to be doing. I want to make money doing, and that's really kind of an arrogant attitude to have. And I don't know where it comes from. I don't know what this is, but it's really something I internally am fighting with all the time. So I'm like, okay, I don't want to work too much because life is more than just working, right? But of course, you got to have money. So I'm just constantly in a balancing act, trying to figure out how much work do I really need to be doing. And with that comes time periods where I'm really broke. And I'm going into that right now, going to Nashville, and everybody's going to be spending money. I'm broke. So I'm excited. These are a good group of people we're going to Nashville with, but I'm not really excited that I'm going to be broke going to Nashville. So I've got an invoice hanging out there for my last shoot. It should be coming in pretty soon. But it's always just I'm always, throughout the year, there's these little areas of the year where I'm just kind of in limbo. And that's going to be a common thing this year. So I'm just trying to mentally, get myself resilient enough to handle 2024. Because, just the fact that I don't have as much work is nerve-wracking, but also, and it's an election year, and I feel like there's all kinds of nuttiness going to happen. So I'm going off on a tangent here, but the Nashville trip, that's where I'm going on Thursday. I'll do a podcast on Monday, and then to get back to my original point, I think what I'm going to do is I'm probably just gonna film stuff. Other than the podcast, I'm just gonna film content. I'm gonna go smallmouth bass fishing, try to go walleye fishing with my best bud Pete, and maybe do an underwater video. And by the way, look at this. I think you guys will be very, very excited about this. So I have been in the process of cleaning my very, very dirty 90-gallon tank that I test underwater lures in. Most lures are underwater. And so this is what a clean, much cleaner tank looks like. I still want to put some vinegar on there. That'll help cut down that, I guess that's like calcium buildup. It'll cut down on that calcium buildup, but it's nearly there. It's getting to a point that I like. You know what I'm saying? And so this is what it looked like before. Terrible, 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 terrible. So that pretty much is cleaned up. I've been siphoning all the dirty water out of that thing, and it's coming along pretty darn good. So I'm excited that we're making some real inroads there. The 90-gallon underwater lure test tank is going to be in effect here very, very soon. I already got lures I want to test. We've talked about that on previous podcasts. So it's going to be exciting once we get this sucker rolling and really kicking out some underwater videos. So that's, I think that covers everything as far as angling uploaded news. Is that right? Sorry about that. That probably doesn't sound good on the mic there. It's most likely my ice fishing is going to be very limited this year. Most of my fishing is going to be related to warm water, nuclear warm water discharges. It's actually fantastic, and I am blessed to be right kind of in the middle of 2 nuclear power plants, and I love nuclear energy. I'm a big proponent. So what do you say we get into the fishing news? Here we go. This is my favorite part of the podcast. And I am a big believer, I've said this many times, I am a big believer that you don't have to spend an arm and a leg for a rod and reel. It's nonsense. You don't have to do it. I've worked with many, many anglers that the rods and reels aren't the most expensive. You can go out and get a G. Loomis and spend, $500+ on a rod, or like a St. Croix Avid Premier, whatever the heck they're called. That's awesome. Listen, it's your money. If you want to spend that money on that, I'm envious of you. I wish I were you, but I'm not you, so I have to spend much less money on rods and reels. So that entails looking for, a reel. Shimano, I've become less happy with Shimano lately. Their bails leave a lot to be desired, but I will fully admit that I am the worst. I do not do reel maintenance. So I need to put that little asterisk, that little caveat there, that I do not do any reel maintenance whatsoever. So, with that being said, I probably shouldn't bitch about Shimano as much as I do, but their bails leave a lot to be desired. So I've heard a lot of good stuff about Pfluger's bails, and I'm just kind of looking around. I don't know if I'm going to switch reels. I've been a Shimano guy for so long, it's just kind of ingrained in me. But with all this being said, I know that I've learned that you do not have to spend so much money for a very, very good rod and reel, that you can fish competitively if you wanted to. So, perfect example of this, like I said, I've worked with guys that are very, very good at fishing. They're pro fishermen, and they're using combos, rod and reel combos, that are not very expensive. Now, it's granted, like I said, some guys are using very expensive stuff, but I always take note when I see a guy using a rod and reel that is very affordable and is a competitor. And so a perfect example of that is Skeet. Skeet Reese on the Bass. He fishes on the Bass Pro Tour, professional bass angler. Skeet, I've worked with Skeet a lot, had a lot of fun working with Skeet through the years. And look at these new reels he's got out. So Cast King is this new rod and reel company. A lot of guys are getting sponsored by him, and now Skeet Reese is sponsored by them, at least the reels. I don't know if he's sponsored by the rods, but his reels now, they're under $100. Well, they're $100, $99.99, which drives me nuts. Why not just call that $100? What is the point of just leaving a scent off there. I guess it's all just psychological, right? But the point being is that, Skeet Reese is a very accomplished professional bass angler. In fact, he has one of the most impressive, streaks in bass fishing. He had this streak back in 2000, middle of 2000s, I want to say. That was just like, he was on a roll. I talked to him about it. I think I've talked on the podcast about this before. He had to actually, it was such, he thought that he was going to, something happened where the streak ended and it totally messed him up, like psychologically. So he had to actually see a shrink about it, because here he is just kicking butt. And then he didn't qualify for the Classic, or something happened where it was kind of like, tragic is too strong a word, but it messed him up mentally. Because he's such a competitor. But my point is that he is using reels that are very, very affordable, and he's a very good angler. His record speaks for itself, and Skeet is actually one of maybe the best marketers in all of fishing, period. That's why he drives the truck he does. He's a force out there. He really knows marketing, knows how to sell himself, but I think it's great, too, that he's using rods and reels that are affordable also. So he's showing that you can be a very accomplished angler and not break the bank. I like that price point, sort of like, I would do that $100 price point. And I think there's reels that are really good now. I think it looks, I'm curious to know what that Cast King's like. But also, I think I've heard some good stuff about Daiwa. They're making some really good reels in that price point, spinning reels. So it's interesting. I kind of like that $120 price point. That's kind of where I start. And I don't really want to go any higher than that. Same with rods. But I would definitely, if that reel felt right, was reliable, sturdy, tough, strong, I don't need to worry about this thing being the lightest thing. Awesome, man. If it's light, I'm all about light. Light is great, but these reels, like, I remember back in the day when not all reels had infinite anti-reverse. So a lot of reels, even expensive reels, still had slap. I mean, I'm basically giving you a hint on how old I am, but yeah, it was a big deal to advertise that a reel had infinite anti-reverse, meaning when it stopped, there was no back, reeling at all. It was an immediate stop. You couldn't reel back at all. I know, like, some of you younger guys that might be watching this or listening are like, what the heck is this guy talking about? But yeah. So the fact that all these reels have infinite anti-reverse now, they're all really good. They're all really light. The biggest thing is just how long are they going to last? Are they going to hold up? So I think Daiwa's making a lot of good stuff. And I think Cast King, that price point, a lot of guys are using it. I'm really, really curious to see kind of what how the Cast King line of rods and reels, how they fish, how tough they are. To me, that's a big thing in rods and reels, is how strong a rod and reel is. Like, it's not a flimsy, it's built well so that you can hit the tip of your rod accident. How many times do you hit the tip of your rod against the ceiling? It's so frustrating. Every time I leave the house, I'm hitting my rod tips on something. And it's almost like stubbing your toe, it feels like, nearly, to me. When I do it, I'm so mad at myself about it. But you want a rod and reel. You want a tough rod and reel, So anyway, but this is the new reels. Here's Skeet talking about it. He's like, it's crazy. I don't know if he's high doing this video, but I love it. Watch it.
Hey everybody, I'm Skeet Reese. Boom, boom, boom. All right, we're gonna talk about the Icon
Skeet, you're doing a commercial right now. What are you doing?
It's a lightweight aluminum frame that gives it strength and durability. You can fish all day long in comfort. So that aluminum frame is absolutely one of the most important things that any spinning reel you're gonna get. The Icon spinning reel comes in two sizes, 2,000 and 3,000. So depending on if you want to fish heavier line or lighter line. The 2,000
Skeet even uses
weighs
yellow
9
line.
ounces. and the 3000 is 9.3 ounces. So very little weight upgrade.
Everything's
going to
yellow.
a larger spool capacity. So bottom line is you get a lightweight aluminum frame spinning reel that is going to be a high performance, be able to get whatever bass, whatever fish you want to get in the boat, you're going to get them. Bearings, bearings, bearings. The Icon spinning reel has 10 plus 1. That's a lot of bearings. You've got 17.6 pounds of drag on a spinning reel. You can go catch giant fish with this thing.
Is Skeet making fun of this commercial that he's
bass,
doing?
You can catch walleye, you can catch whatever you want with the Icon spinning reel. With over 17 pounds of drag, ain't nothing stopping you.
It's a good one, Skeet.
I love my
He's
job.
very, very
TPE.
laid back.
That little knob right there. Oh my gosh. What's it do? It doesn't allow you to slip off the handle. This thing feels so good in the hand. All day long comfort, no slip, setting the hook, ooh, catching fish.
Look at him. He's having a blast,
One
man.
cool thing about the Icon series is the color. This is gunmetal gray. It's got black in there. It's got the yellow. But I've also purposely created the combo to match some of the Reese fishing rods and components. So anytime you're gonna put a Icon spinning reel or casting reel on one of my Reese fishing rods, damn, you're gonna look good.
Well, there it is, and yeah, it's. I'll tell you, Skeet. He was very laid back, man. He's always very laid back. He's having fun. Great to see it, and that's. I'm excited for that. You know, for that reel, and it's affordable, and it's always good to see that in fishing. Not everything has to be so ridiculously expensive. So, hats off to Skeet for making an affordable. Actually rod and reel. He's got affordable rods and reels. All right, so that is from Bass Blaster, by the way. Bass Blaster, as I've said in previous podcasts, is the source, really the main source, that and Target Walleye that I use to scour. I'm scouring the internet, but honestly, I'm using Bass Blaster, the newsletter, and the Target Walleye newsletter a lot for the stuff that I find to report on in this podcast. So kudos to Jay Kumar at Bass Blaster and Brett McComas at Target Walleye. They do a great job, and I would not be anywhere without them. This podcast, it just wouldn't exist. So thank you guys, and thank you Skeet for that cool tutorial on the new Cast King reels. All right, that's more news on reels. If you loved reels, you're going to love this podcast, man, because we're talking about reels a lot. And my favorite, I guess, do I have a favorite rod manufacturer? Not really, but I use St. Croix probably more than anything, just because I like that St. Croix. I'm showing you one of the reels that they're coming out with now, but I like St. Croix because they offer so many different types of rods for different species. So I'm a multi-species guy, so I like St. Croix really a lot for that fact. And it's really interesting. I'm curious to see how people are going to like these new reels that St. Croix is coming out with. And I love the name. It's called 7, okay? And this is one of them right now. If you're watching if you're listening to the podcast, this is one of their reels. And I'm going to, let's see here. I think, yeah. So let me just read this press announcement, press release from the Fishing Wire. 7 announces availability of GS and GX series spinning reels. Park Falls, Wisconsin, which is where they're based, backed by 7 decades of design and manufacturing expertise, industry-leading customer service, and unbroken private ownership by the Schluter family, dating back to 1977. 7 reels are meticulously engineered and purpose-built to help anglers conquer every species of every piece of water on the planet. Today, 7 announces availability of its first spinning reel models, the $140 7 GS series and the $190 7 GX series. So I would be interested in the $140 7 GS series personally, unless I win the lottery. So I, as a St. Croix guy, all those rods back there primarily are St. Croix rods. I got some over there that are St. Croix rods. I got some Fenwicks too, but I change it up. I got some Shimanos. I mean, it's kind of a mess, to be honest. I like the idea of just having all the same rods and reels, all the same manufacturer. I'm all for it, but I've just, through the years, I've been very happy with the rod. Feels really, really good. Like I've got this Fenwick Elite Tech that I use for smallmouth. It's my primary smallmouth rod, for like casting like tubes and stuff. And I just love that thing. But that's a Fenwick. But most of my stuff is St. Croix. So I love that they're offering a reel now. And I'd be curious, anybody who's had any experience. I mean, these are new. I know their casting reels have been out for a little bit now, but anybody that's got experience with their casting reels, or even if I'm not sure whether you can get your hands on the new spinning reels yet, but if you have any experience with these reels, let me know in the comments. I'd be very, very curious to know just how they fish, quality, how they, stand up to the elements. So here's some more on the 7 GS series spinning reel. Meet your new, obviously this is a press release, so sounds like it's coming right out of the advertising department at St. Croix. Meet your new go-to spinning reel, the all-new GS spinning reel from 7. It's been designed from a totally blank canvas for the express purpose of giving anglers smooth, lightweight, rock-solid, and reliably dependent performance for an attractive and competitive retail price. Are you ready for this? $140. Almost 2 full years in design, this is a lightweight and extremely durable reel, says 7 product manager Robert Woods. Available in 5 different sizes from $750 to $3,000. So that $750 is a pretty good ultralight reel. Like for a Shimano, I think their 500s are ultralight, but I do have a Shimano that's a 750 and it's pretty good. I think it would also work for ultralight applications. But anyway, so that 3000 is a big reel, a big spinning reel. So GS series, I mean, what would you put on that? Maybe 15-pound test, something like that. It's kind of the upper limits that you'd even want to use a spinning reel. I don't know. When you get bigger poundage tests, I just like casting reels for the most part. Not always, but anyway, so the GS series reel will appeal to a wide range of avid anglers as well as more casual anglers who appreciate the elevated quality and performance. Our team engineered GS with a carbon body, side plates, and rotor to maximize rigidity and minimum weight, and rounded out the external design with strong and lightweight aluminum handles and spools. So immediately when I think about this, I'm like, okay, you're saying you're designing this stuff. Are you really designing it? And St. Croix is a great company, so they probably are. But there's so many I shouldn't say that. There's only a handful. This is what I'm trying to say. There's actually only a handful of reel manufacturers in the world. And so what happens is companies go, you know what, I want to make a reel. Our company wants to have a reel. So they work with another company to make the reel that's very similar, if not exactly, it's not going to be exactly similar, I guess, but it's very dissimilar to other reels that they make. They slap, whoever's paying them, they slap their logo on the reel. And I know I'm simplifying this greatly, but it's kind of how it works. And then they ship it off, and that's whoever's reel. It's now their reel when it's actually being made by another company, which you never know who that company is. You'd really have to dig. So it's not like St. Croix. I doubt that St. Croix is making these in-house. They're probably made in Malaysia, where all of Shimano's stuff is being made. Somewhere in China, maybe. Probably likely. Actually, 100%. That's fine, I guess. I'd rather it be made here. I could go off on a tangent there, but I'm not going to. We're going to keep this focused entirely on fishing right now. But it does frustrate me when everything gets shipped off and someone else makes things, and then, and it's an American company and someone else somewhere else in another country. I'm all for trade, but I think I would like stuff to be made here more. Let's make sure our people here in this country, get the work first. But I'm okay. Here I apologize. I said I wasn't going to do it, and I did it. So we're getting back here. So anyway, St. Croix with this reel, it's probably made in China, but if it's good, I'm interested in trying it out. So that's what I'm saying. I just wish it was made here. Maybe it is made here. If there are reels made here, let me know in the comments. I'd be really curious because I would try to support those companies personally. All right, so there's some other stuff here about this reel. It looks like that. That is the GS model. It's sexy. There's only like so much stuff, though, that you can kind of do with a spinning reel after a certain amount of time. I mean, a spinning reel doesn't look really much different than a spinning reel looked in the 80s. And in fact, there's spinning reels that are still the same exact model. And if I can think hard enough, which can be very difficult for me, there was a reel made by Daiwa still being offered the same exact reel. And it was like the reel that tournament guys use, the spinning reel. And it's still being offered today, and I cannot remember it. It's like a Team Daiwa something, and it's awesome. It's that good of a reel. It's that durable and just does the job, does the ticket that they have not changed anything about, and they still offer it today, which I think is fantastic. I wish I could remember that reel, but anyway, but it is funny. It's like, how much can you actually do? To a spinning reel. They talk about all the performance they're adding into reels, and when it comes right down to it, a reel is really kind of simple. It's just you turn the handle and the spool rotates. And some of these, like I said earlier, some of these prices on these rods and reels, and it's out of control when you really think of the simplicity of it all. It's not like, I know some reels now have digital casting control and stuff like that, but the basics of a reel are very, very simple. Okay, so it is interesting that they continue to come out with new design. I mean, they got to sell stuff, but new designs, new little gimmicks. But a spinning reel really looks like a spinning reel looked in 1980. So, okay, the GX series. This is for the highfalutin people out there. The 7 GX series was designed and engineered from a blank slate over the past 2 years with the goal of producing an ultra-reliable family of lightweight spinning reels offering premium, elite-level performance. Elite! Wow. Everything's elite, man. Says Woods. Available, so I guess Woods, I might have, he must have been, he's a guy at St. Croix. Available in 5 versatile sizes from $750 to $3,000, just like the GS series. The GX series spinning reels share similar design architecture with our GS family of spinning reels, but with additional features that cut weight. Granted, that's good. I'm all for cutting weight. And further elevate performance. Listen to this wordage. Further elevate performance, man. Like we don't want you relaxing out there fishing. We need you at your top level game, apex predator. You are the man out there on the water. You need to be at the top, the upper echelon. Don't be jacking around trying to enjoy yourself out there. Sorry. All right, let's get back to this. GX is a lightweight reel with a powerful look and smooth, reliable performance. They've been engineered and crafted to exceed the expectations of the most demanding anglers, employing a variety of spinning techniques from traditional finesse tactics to flat-out power fishing. And this is what the GX looks like. So, yeah, sexy reel. That's the 601, I guess is what it's called. And, yeah, I'm all about it. I'd be interested in seeing how well they work. I'm just hoping that bail is a good bail. You know what I'm saying? If we got a good bail there, I am on board for the 7 series. I'm anxious to try one out. So there you go. All right, so we are moving on. What are we going to talk about next here that I've just been all out of sorts, just wanting to tell you guys about? So yes, here it is. I've been a Berkley guy. I've harped on this. I'm not going to go into it anymore. You know how much I like Berkley, particularly their soft baits, their power baits. The scent impregnation is the deal. They have got all kinds of new forward-facing sonar baits out there right now. And one of them, the Power Switch, has that scent impregnation in it. It's a soft plastic. But these new hard baits that Berkley's come out with for forward-facing sonar are very, very, very impressive. I credit a lot of that primarily because I did a podcast with them, and I kind of felt like we had a connection there, not to be like weird. But Dan Spengler is the designer of the hard baits. I believe he's like, I don't know his technical title, but he's a big wig at Berkley in designing of the hard baits there. Okay, so I did a podcast with him, and I think he and his team are really responsible for a lot of what's going on at Berkley with these really innovative hard baits. Okay, so I'm excited. Now this is from Bass Blaster. Just giving you an idea here, bringing up, if you're listening to the podcast, I'm bringing up a picture of some of these forward-facing sonar offerings that Berkley has brought out here recently. So, like I said, you have the Power Switch in the upper right there. You have the Finisher to the left, and to the lower right, you have the Credge. And that Finisher, to me, is kind of an all... well, they're both. Everything there is a new kind of bait, okay? But that Finisher, to me, is I'm very, very intrigued by that bait because it's essentially, it's like, in walleye fishing, I guess they call them glide baits. And that makes makes a ton of sense to call them glide baits. That's what they do. Rapala jigging wraps are glide baits, okay? So I call them kind of that jigging wrap style of bait, like that has that erratic, you fish them, if you fish them vertically, they can go in any direction. Even when you're fishing vertically, they're incredibly erratic because of their design. What I like about this Finisher is that when you watch this thing underwater, and I'll show you this here shortly, you watch this thing underwater, and it has got just a really erratic action. It's got an action that I would say is very, very similar to a jerkbait, but imagine a jerkbait that it goes every direction. It goes up, down, left, right, everywhere. Backwards. So I'm going to show you this Finisher here in a second, but let's just keep on. Let's read here. This is from, where did I get this from? This is from Target Walleye. Okay, Brett McComas. Before anyone gets all worked up, this is a excuse me, I need to get some more Coke Zero here. This is from an article in Target Walleye that Brett McComas did, talking about all the offerings that Berkley's dropping here for forward-facing sonar. And let me just read this because it goes into a lot of good points about these baits and just how forward-facing sonar is just opening up a whole new category of lures. Before anyone gets all worked up, just know, because forward-facing sonar, there's a lot of people that don't like it. But anyway, let me continue here. Before anyone gets all worked up, just know that you don't need forward-facing sonar, which is live scope, mega live, active target, to catch fish with these baits. But of course, they can be even more effective, efficient when paired with it. That's because we use forward-facing sonar technology, to interact with fish, read their mood, see what fish are like, or see what fish like or don't like by studying how they're reacting to baits in real time and adjust on the fly from there. Most folks are used to the idea that this bait does this, or this bait does that, or this bait only works for that scenario. But that's where baits optimized for use with forward-facing sonar are different. In my opinion, a great way to describe what forward-facing sonar optimized means would be angler control. Forward-facing sonar optimized baits can be fished throughout the entire water column, top to bottom. They stay in the strike zone longer, and you can manipulate the actions of the bait from finesse to aggressive to get fish to commit to biting based on your interpretation of the fish's mood that you're watching on the screen. Bonus points for being easy to cast into the wind, showing well on the screen, your fish finder screen, and getting down to fish quickly. These are all excellent points that Brett is bringing up here. So the Berkley finisher, which I am so keyed up about. I don't even have forward-facing sonar, and I'm all wound up about this bait. Berkley's senior project engineer of bait and terminal tackle. There it is. Dan Spengler is the senior project engineer for bait and terminal tackle. That's his official title. He says the finisher is the first of its kind, a hovering hard bait, we call it. It truly gives anglers ultimate control of their bait, being able to manipulate it in several ways based on what fish are responding to, especially when pairing this bait with forward-facing sonar. What makes this bait unique is that it has no fin structure, which can allow it to do a multitude of actions, from erratic darting to natural minnow-like tail movement. What makes the finisher deadly is its flat bottom, which allows it to hover or hang in the water column. A bait with such diversity truly allows anglers to have control of how they're interacting with fish on forward-facing sonar. It comes in 3 sizes, 5, 7, and 9. A third, a half, and 3/4 ounce, and in 20 colors. Here's some of those colors right here. This is a amazing bait. I don't have it. Like I said, I don't have forward-facing sonar, but the deal is that if you're in an area that have fish, the depth that you're in, you can still work that bait. And know that, as you're working it, as you're kind of feeling it, without forward-facing sonar, as you're feeling it through the water column, that might make kind of no sense, but it should make sense if you've ever fished anything in the middle of the water column without forward-facing sonar. I know this might be hard to imagine that anglers have had to do this in the past, but you have a feel where, okay, I'm marking a lot of fish at this depth, so they're probably at that depth out in front of me, and you can count down, the old school counting down 1 to 1,000, 2 to 1,000 to get an idea. You got to kind of have an idea how, the fall rate of your lure, but then you can kind of work it in that depth zone that you think they're at, and just kind of work that thing erratically. Twitches of the rod tip. I'll show you here too how guys are fishing it here shortly. But knowing that you're working a presentation that's super erratic, fish haven't seen before, and yeah, you're doing it blindly, but I think this bait could be really, really effective just without forward-facing sonar too. And I'm super keyed up about it. So the next bait, we're going to hold off on. Let's look at this finisher first, and just to give you an idea just how impressive this bait is. So this is from Berkley. Check this out.
The finisher is one of the most unique baits I've ever seen.
This bait is designed to fish for forward-facing sonar, and you work it with quick, snappy strokes with a rod tip on the semi-slack line to give it a nice side-to-side action.
The lateral movement is insane.
It may go right twice, then left, then up, then down. I mean, it's all over the place.
Not only can you cast it out in front of the boat and fish it back towards you, you can also fish it vertically, so it allows you to change on the fly.
The thing that I really like about this bait is some of these fish are suspended. We might be in 30 to 35 feet of water. These fish might be 10 feet off the bottom. And this thing sinks a little bit slower than your typical real heavy glide baits. But what it allows you to do is keep the bait above those suspended fish.
You see a fish on your sonar and it might be out there 80, 90, 100 feet. This thing casts like a little bullet.
It also gets down to the fish very fast because it tends to tilt.
Look at the tail wag.
And sinks.
I can keep it down there in the strike zone and work it side to side.
That bait is wagging
super
its
aggressive.
tail.
Man, it generates a bunch of bites.
It really is amazing at getting fish to react that you would not catch otherwise.
Yeah, so that's really, really impressive. And they don't really talk about that video very well, but I've seen underwater, and you'll see it in that video. Let me try to bring this up again. This thing, maybe I can, let's bring this up again. So if you go to the underwater footage here, watch this tail waddle here. Hopefully you'll be able to pick this up.
Movement is insane.
It may go right twice, then left, then up, then down. I mean, it's all over the place.
Not only
Now,
can
you're not seeing it there, but there is a video here. Now that's not, it's this last video here, I think, that's in the tank. It's very, very interesting that this tail, now watch this. I think this is the video here. This tail is waddling as it's falling.
it also gets down to the fish very fast because it tends to tilt nose down and it sinks.
I can keep it.
Play it again. Now, this is important because this is to me, a real selling aspect, and they kind of missed it in this video, not selling this more.
It also gets down to the fish very fast because it tends to tilt nose down and it sinks.
That tail is waddling. It's waddling as it's falling. So it doesn't just have an action of just falling and erratic but it's falling pretty fast, but it's also wagging its tail down. So it's like I said, that's a whole new genre of lures that Berkley's come out with, and that's kind of the case with the first one that they came out with in this line, this forward-facing sonar optimized line with the power switch. That's also kind of a new bait. When you reel that bait, the tail, which is flat, it's like a flat tail. That tail will waddle really in a seductive way. So Berkley's just making amazing lures, and the finisher, to me, is going to be at the top of my list for the forward-facing sonar group of lures that they've released. The finisher, to me, is where it's at. But with that being said, the Kredge. Now, the Kredge is what I see. It's got a little more limited uses, I would say, than the finisher. But that being said, it's also just really, really interesting. And so here's Brett McComas with the Kredge. You see immediately that this is not like any other jerkbait you've seen. The bill, instead of pointed downward, is pointing upward. And Brett says, pretty easy to spot what makes this bugger stand out. By the way, Kredge is jerk spelled backwards. So, yeah, it's very, very interesting bait. It swims up when you jerk it and sinks backwards on slack line. Designed to excel with forward-facing sonar, the all-new Berkley Kredge is a revolutionary hard bait that defies conventional jerk baiting by working its way upwards in the water column, thanks to its unique upturned bill construction. There's never, I don't think, ever been a lure that has turned the bill upside down. I could be wrong. Post it in the comments if I'm wrong, but I don't think so. Okay, so it's got this upturned bill that brings it up into the water column, and then it falls back, only then to fall backwards towards its target. This new technique in action allows anglers to take advantage of being able to see how a fish is reacting on forward-facing sonar and present a never-before-seen action and level of bait control to get fish to commit, like working the credge up and away from fish to better imitate a fleeing bait fish, or by pausing the retrieve to let the credge backslide towards the fish to trigger a reaction strike. So, yeah, very, very cool. Like, just the fact that I give Berkley a lot of credit for even making a bait, mass producing a bait that is this innovative. And, you know, fishermen can be very, very finicky. We can be very moody, and we can be very, very particular. And a bait like this, when people see it, they might be like, what in the world? I am not going to be fishing that thing. That's a jerk bait that has its, you know, lip busted or something. But the thing is that if this thing, so the other thing too with the credge, like the finisher, that's a bait that you wouldn't necessarily need for forward-facing sonar. But the credge is a bait that I can't really see using without the use of forward-facing sonar, because that you need to know precisely where the bait is, or where the lure, well, you do need to know where the lure is positioned, but you need to know where the fish that you're targeting is positioned. And, you know, it's much more of a precise presentation that you need to make using the credge than a finisher. A finisher, you know, is going all over the place. It can trigger, I think it probably triggers fish better in the fact that it's so erratic. It seems like the credge is more of a finesse kind of application where you want that thing to keep going back to the fish and just trying to tempt it to bite. And to kind of further illustrate that point, here is a video by Berkley detailing the beautifulness, that's not a word, the innovativeness, that might be a word, I'm not sure. Here it is.
It's designed for forward-facing sonar.
It looks like nothing else that I've ever seen.
Now look at,
It's got a real similar
that thing
body
is
to the
waddling
stunner,
down.
But as you can see,
That's
the
good.
bill is flipped backwards.
Which brings you to the name. Credge is jerk spelled backwards. You can get this bait in front of that fish extremely quick, and you can keep it there until they bite.
It's weighted really uniquely so it falls away from you into the fish.
You'll pull it towards you, you let it slide back. You pull it towards you and you let it slide back, and you can let the fish see it multiple times.
Instead of it diving down like a jerk bait, it rises up, it goes left and right.
There's a bunch of different ways to work it. I will reel it, twitch it. You can let it do that shimmy fall right back to them, and they can't handle it.
It really is going to change the way that we fish on forward-facing sonar. A credge fish right there.
Yeah, so that is the credge, and kudos to Berkley for really thinking outside the box on this one and having the courage to mass produce this very, very strange lure. It is a very, very strange lure. I think a lot of people are going to fish it wrong and going to be like, nah. But I think this is one of those lures that if you learn how to fish it properly, it could be a really, really great bait in your arsenal. So, you know, I'm not real fond of how this bait looks when you're bringing it up, you know, and they're talking about how you can also fish this on the top, you know. The action of it when you're reeling it up and then as a top water, to me, does not look that great. Now, if you have a fish that's following it and it gets onto the surface of the water and you're working on the surface of the water and that really triggers it, then awesome, you know. But I'm just saying, I'm being really particular here. Just looking at the bait when you're retrieving it or raising your rod tip, that bait to me, you know, it doesn't have the greatest action. Where the action of this bait is when you drop that thing back and you see it just waddling back. Let's watch it again. This thing waddles back as it falls.
It's designed for forward-facing sonar.
It looks like nothing
I like
else
the way that
I've
thing's
ever seen.
falling. It's
got a real
rolling
similar body to
and
the
waddling.
stunner, but as you can see, the bill is flipped backwards.
Which brings you to the name. Dredge is jerk spelled backwards. You can get this bait in front of that fish extremely quick, and you can keep it there until they bite.
It's weighted really uniquely, so it falls away from you
That looks
into
great
the
to me.
fish.
You'll pull it towards you, you let it slide back. You pull it towards you and you let it slide back, and you can let the fish see it multiple times.
Instead of it diving down like a jerk bait, it rises up, it goes left and right.
See, that doesn't look great to me.
Different ways to work it. I would
Doesn't look
really
great.
Switch it. You can let it do that shimmy fall right back to them, and they can't handle it.
It really is going to change the way that we fish on forward-facing sonar. A credge fish right there.
Come on with it, man. The credge. But yeah, I'm being all nitpicky. I think that bait is going to have a real spot. You know, it could be one of those lures that people are like, I can't fish this thing. It's too weird, man. Why? I'm kind of sounding like Bill Clinton there a little bit for some reason. I have no idea where that came from. I'm terrible at impressions, but maybe that's one I could do. So I might try that with my wife tonight. Bill Clinton. You know. Okay, so yeah, the credge. Awesome lure. All kinds of awesome lures at Berkley's. I mean, Lord have mercy. The last 5 years, Berkley has been on fire. The last year, they've been on fire with everything they're putting out. So the credge, another just amazing lure. Hopefully people will figure it out how to fish it, and they'll sell a ton of them. I'm a big fan of Berkley, as I've said millions of times before, and I want to try this credge out. I probably need to get forward-facing sonar first. All right, so where are we at now? Let's go on to, I think I covered the credge. Now this is, unfortunately, we need to talk about this because this has been such a absolutely terrible ice fishing season. Actually, you know what? I guess we can talk about this now. I guess we can talk about it now. I don't like to talk. I guess we got to talk about it. This isn't a happy story. Why would we leave the unhappy story for the end? We'll try to end on a more positive note. Let's just get through this. But this has been a terrible ice fishing season for tragedy. A lot of people, we've had such weird weather. It's gotten cold, it's gotten warm. All the lakes have then thawed out, become open. Then it's got really cold. All the lakes then refroze. But, a lot of lakes just are uneven ice, very unfavorable ice conditions, I'd say. So a lot of people are falling through, and that's the case again. This happened recently. And this is, I got this from Target Walleye. Mille Lacs claimed the life of a legend. Richard Dickey Gadbois, I hope I got his name right, who'd been plowing ice road systems, running rental houses and launches on Mille Lacs for over 40 years. He also helped start the now famous perch extravaganza on the east side in the early 1980s, among helping many other nonprofit groups and much more. Sounds like he was out checking ice conditions on the lake and that the ice was approximately 6 inches thick where his small SUV broke through. He was wearing a flotation device, but unfortunately did not make it. He will be greatly missed by many. Our thoughts and prayers go out to the family. Yes, definitely very, very, very sorry to hear this. Way too much of this is happening this year. This has just been an awful ice fishing year. Here is the story from a local television station.
Well, it's happened again. A vehicle went through the ice on Lake Mille Lacs today, killing the driver.
It's a reminder that despite today's bitter cold, a few days of freezing isn't enough to significantly thicken the ice. Eric Shalou has more on the incident.
The Mille Lacs County Sheriff's Office snapped this picture where a small SUV fell through the ice Friday morning on the east side of Mille Lacs Lake. It was a 911 caller who asked for help, reporting that a man was in the water. He was wearing a flotation device at the time, was pulled out, raced to shore in a side-by-side UTV.
Unfortunately, this ended up being a fatality.
Later in the day, Mille Lacs County Sheriff Kyle Burton learned from the hospital that 80-year-old Richard Gadboy of Isle did not survive. Gadboy has been a fixture on Mille Lacs for decades. An acquaintance told me he was a friend to many. Ice conditions vary across Mille Lacs Lake, according to the sheriff.
I know other sheriffs have talked about in the state, not thick enough to be driving cars or trucks on right now. To drive a truck, usually you're looking for that 13 to 17 inches of good clear ice, and we certainly don't have that right now.
Sheriff Burton urges anglers to be checking ice conditions before they venture out to fish on Mille Lacs.
Foot traffic, I'd say, is safe, and your smaller ATVs are safe in some spots. I mean, it's always a risk to go out there.
This tragedy, the sheriff says, is a reminder about how conditions vary on the lake.
Make sure you're checking multiple spots. If you're going to get set up, drill several holes and check that ice thickness, because it might be 6 inches where you're standing and you might go over a few feet and it might be 2 inches.
The ice conditions vary across the state. Up in Benton County, the sheriff reported a snowmobile through the ice Friday morning. Thankfully, the 16-year-old driver was able to pull himself out of the water on Little Rock Lake. The teen is being treated for hypothermia. In the newsroom, Eric Shalou, 5 Eyewitness News.
Yeah. Real bummer stuff there. And what I suspect happened, which is just, it's really, really terrible. I lost, a few years back, I lost a buddy that I actually met doing clam webisodes. I had, for a winter or two, done some clam work for Clam, videography for Clam, and shot their internet stuff. And I had Jim Hudson, a friend of mine, also an exceptional angler. He was on the Clam pro staff, and so I worked with him a lot. And he actually went through the ice and passed away on Lake Superior. So I know how dangerous it is. I just don't mess around with early ice, late ice. Really, it's nothing it's nothing to mess around with. I think what happened with this gentleman is that he probably had a life jacket on. He was in his SUV and it went in, and having the life jacket on in the SUV probably made it more difficult for him to get out of the SUV. So keep that in mind if you ever are on the ice. Make sure that it's plenty thick, especially if you have a car on the ice. Have your windows down, and don't have, just be ready. Be ready. Don't have a life jacket on, because if that, I would say that having the life jacket on, you should put the life jacket on when you've exited. If you have a life jacket with you, when you've exited the vehicle as it's sinking, then have the life jacket on. Have it with you. Don't be wearing it, because then it's going to make it much more difficult to get out of the vehicle. And tragically, I think that's what happened in this particular instance. So, yes, very tragic, and thoughts to the family of that poor gentleman. So. All right, well, now on to, as we're getting a little bit closer to wrapping this up, on to more happier news. And Seth Feider, who is a pro bass angler from Minnesota. Finally, Minnesota is represented well. I feel like we're at least the North is getting more represented in the bass fishing world. I always thought it was weird that there could be there's such great bass fishing in Minnesota, and yet it's not really represented, or hasn't been represented that well in bass fishing tournaments. That has changed. The northern anglers, obviously you had, Kevin Van Dam from Michigan, but we got Seth Feider now from Minnesota. Gustafson, drawing a blank on his first name, I apologize. He won the Bassmasters Classic. He's from up in Canada. So our northern guys are starting to represent well. And Seth Feider is certainly one of the anglers here in Minnesota that is doing really, really well, and he's getting ready for the upcoming tournament bass fishing season, and he's putting a very, very big fish finder screen at the bow of his boat. And I got to show you this. Now, I think I got this from Bass Blaster, the newsletter, but it's pretty cool what he's doing here. Check this out.
What's up, boys? This is the NBT Marine 22-inch screen. This is what I'm probably most excited about that's new for me for this year.
So he's using a I love this. He's using a 22-inch screen by NBT Marine. I've never even heard of this before, but I'm super excited about it because I've complained that it's getting ridiculous. It's getting ridiculous on boats now, okay, with all of the bells and whistles on them. You got to start consolidating this stuff. You can't have all of this stuff hanging off the trolling motor. You can't have all of those graphs up there. It just looks ridiculous. I like that guys are now picking up on the idea of a big graph that does everything all those little graphs we're doing. Let's consolidate things more, gets things more streamlined. I like it.
Live scope's the deal now. It's just something, big screens help with that. You can see better, see further, better detail, all that stuff. Better picture with this screen as well versus your standard units. And this is basically just mirroring a Garmin that I have on the console. I have an 8612 Garmin on the console. Both my black boxes are going to that, but I can do anything from this screen. I can, it's all touch screen. I can change anything from here that I can change on the Garmin, change windows. I'm going to be running 2 scopes on here, one in live and then one in perspective. We can put both of those on the same screen. Plenty of room on there. It's 22 inches, so you could run 4 screens on here and still have plenty of room for all of them. Another really cool thing about...
And so that's really the deal. Let's get it so we don't need to have 4 graphs up there. I'm fine with a 22-inch graph up there. Let's get things cleaned up there so it just doesn't look just absolutely ridiculous. And this, I've never heard, like I said, never heard of this company before. NBT Marine. He's mirrored it basically to his graph at the console. But what's amazing about it is he's got touch control with it. So it's not like it's just a mirror, like it's just a screen. It's also controlling the graph back at the console.
The NBT Marines, even though it's this giant screen, it looks crazy expensive. This is probably one of the cheapest ways to rig your boat if you're going to go deck it out and do all the things you want. Instead of having to buy 5 graphs, in theory, a guy could run one 8600 Garmin unit and a big NBT up front. They come in 16 or 22-inch models, both available at Omnia Fishing. The really cool thing about it is you get this giant screen for all your scoping, mapping, side scanning, all that stuff, and you can actually do it more cost effective than you can if you were to buy 5 separate 12-inch units like you're seeing all the pros running right now. They got 3 12s up front, 2 12s on the console. You can get more screen for less money with a better picture, more options, more details, different color schemes out of the NBT Marine than you can out of running just a standard if you were to go out and buy 5 Garmins or 5 Humminbirds, 5 Lowrances, whatever it may be.
So that's a huge deal, and I have been wanting something like this for a long time. I've been wanting it. It's not like I can afford any of this stuff right now, but that being, a lot of people can't afford this. This is like really, really expensive stuff, but it is getting stuff more streamlined, and it is making this less expensive. So, to have all of that stuff, have all of those graphs would be $18,000, nearly $18,000. And with this graph, what did he say? What was that? What did the price come out to? It came out to, I've kind of had it blocked here. So if you had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 graphs it would cost, I'm kind of having my graphic here blocking it, but it's over $17,000, okay, for 5 graphs. With this one unit, okay, well, with this unit and another graph, I think is what they're saying here, because you have to have something to mirror it, basically. It's $7,600 basically. So that's a huge deal. That's a really big deal. Let's just start it from here.
Separate 12-inch units like you're seeing all the pros running right now. They got 3 12s up front, 2 12s on the console. You can get more screen for less money with a better picture, more options, more details, different color schemes out of the MBT Marine than you can out of running just a standard if you were to go out and buy, 5 Garmins or 5 Humminbirds, 5 Lowrances, whatever it may be. You're going to get a bigger screen and a better value and a better product because you can run all of this off one singular Garmin. You could buy yourself one 8600 series Garmin. You could put it in your rod box, run a 16 or 22 inch NBT on the console, a 16 or 22 inch NBT up front. So you're getting more bang for your buck, and that would cost you less than if you were to buy 4 or 5 separate Garmin Lowrance units, whatever it may be, to trick out your boat. And you're going to have bigger screens, better clarity. Everything's going to be bigger. You're going to be able to see better. Just a really great, cost-effective way, believe it or not, to rig your boat. I know it looks crazy. A 22-inch screen, you're thinking to yourself, that's going to be like $10,000, but these are actually cheaper than the 12-inch 8600 Garmins, and you're just getting so much more for a much better price. You need to check out these NBT Marine units. They're insane. I'm really looking forward to getting out there this year, and like I said, we got a real heavy scope schedule. So we're going to be looking at this a lot. So I'm really looking forward to getting out there and using this. Just a really awesome deal. Really looking forward to using this, and I'm most excited about this out of anything I am on my boat this year. And like I said, we got them at omniafishing.com, so go over there and check them out.
They are going to absolutely sell so many of those. It's gonna be stupid. It's gonna be stupid. So I need to get one of these on my boat. I need to focus and make enough money so that I can get one of those things and put it on my boat here. So I don't know if I'm going to be selling my boat. I don't know. I've talked about this ad nauseum. I'm still trying to. It's totally irresponsible for me to try to be trying to afford this boat right now, but I fantasize about still putting graphs on it, and the NBT, I've never even heard of this company before, but the fact is that is an awesome product. Big screen, gives you more options for colors, which is wild. You can control, it's a touch screen, huge screen, obviously, and it is cheaper than having to buy a bunch of other big 12-inch screens and go in debt and get divorced, and it just a cascade of terrible things can happen. So, okay, maybe I'm exaggerating a little bit, but it's possible, I guess, those bad things can happen because you paid so much for graphs. But I think it's a great product. I just am going to fantasize about buying it, and I hope you do too. I hope you actually don't just fantasize, you actually are able to afford it, and you go out and you buy one. All right, so let's see. We are getting close here. We're getting close. This is a really, put this in the cool factor, really cool stuff that's being, innovation in fishing. This is it's fishing. You can use a pontoon for fishing. Pontoons can, I think, in many respects, be great crafts, water crafts for fishing. I've seen one. I saw, where was it? It was on the Great Lakes last year. There was a decked out pontoon. A guide was using it to guide out of, and it had rods all over. He was using it for trolling for salmon out on the Great Lakes. And in that situation for trolling, and you have a group of people, It's a great platform. So this would be a perfect setup for a guy that has a guiding business and he wants to take a number of people out and he's trolling for salmon, walleye, something like that. Check this out.
How you look at trolling motors is about to change forever. Introducing the revolutionary Troll and Stow from Premier, an innovative new trolling motor design that eliminates the clutter of traditional systems. Troll and Stow is easily deployed by simply opening the locker door and lifting the trolling platform into the standby position, and then lowering the motor into the water. And when you're ready to explore other locations, Troll and Stow can be quickly returned to the standby position. Best of all, when you're finished, the entire system stows completely below. No cords to trip over or mounting hardware in the way. Just a clean, clutter-free deck. The new revolutionary Troll and Stow from Premier. One more way Premier takes your pontoon experience beyond.
No, come on. Is that not awesome? That is like that. I mean, I have a pontoon, and I'm kind of like, dang. You know, I mean, I could put a trolling motor on my pontoon, but it's not stow and go, and I just really like what Premier's done there. Problem with Premier is they're kind of pricey. See, I have a Sun Tracker. I couldn't afford a Premier, but nice work, Premier. That is going to be the pontoon, man. You have a guide business. You're on the Great Lakes. You're trolling for salmon or walleye, something like that. That's going to be the pontoon to get. I'm telling you. That is hats off. I'm not taking my hat off. I have terrible hair right now, and it's I'm approaching 50, so it's thinning crazily. So hats off to Premier. Nice work there. I like it. Okay, so we are nearly to the end here, but I gotta show you this. It's like, what are the Japanese up to? They're always innovative. They're always making, like they were the ones that brought us the sharpest hooks, the most detailed lures. We wouldn't have the kind of lures, the sharp hooks that we have now without the Japanese, I'm telling you. So it's smart. All you guys out there, walleye guys, bass guys, you should have your finger on the pulse of what the Japanese anglers are doing, because super innovative, super innovative. Their attention to detail, they're just crazy, like just about perfection. Look at this. I don't even know. This looks like what you'd see at a sausage factory or something. These are this is from a company, I think the company's called Keeper Line. All right. And this is translated from Japanese. So, take that for what it's worth. But this is from an Instagram account called Lure News, all one word. It's a Japanese Instagram account. And this is from a company, fishing tackle manufacturer in Japan called Keeper Line. And the name of this bait is called Tank Pull. Okay? And I translated the copy here that's on Instagram, translated from Japanese into English, and it says net weight 19 grams, so it's super heavy, 48% salt combination rate. So it's loaded, 48% of this thing is loaded with salt, right? It looks, so if you're just listening to this podcast, this looks like this bait, it's a number of these baits, okay? It's like they just came out of the injection mold, soft plastic bait. Imagine a sausage. Sausage is lined up, and the sausages, they have a little tail, right? Imagine like when you make sausage, you have the casing, and the end of it, they cut off the ends, and you have that tag, It looks like that, but there's only one end has the tag, and it's a little paddle tail. And so I imagine this bait, you work in the middle of the water column, it probably waddles down, maybe does kind of a walk the dog kind of action. Middle of the water column probably would be a lure that would work well for forward-facing sonar. This is similar to those baits, I imagine, similarly fished to one of those like turd kind of baits. Heck, what are they called? They look kind of phallic. And also kind of like, excrement, quite frankly, is what I'm trying to say. But those style of baits, they're meant to kind of walk the dog in the middle of the water column, and I think that's what this bait does here. So it says high ratio worm tank pull that creates a fast landing complex dog walk is the translation. So if you are a serious angler and you want to learn about lures that have not gotten here first and could be big deals when they get here, go on Instagram and follow Lure News, all one word, or any like Raid, R-A-I-D is another great Japanese tackle company you should follow, but there's a number of them. Just follow as many Japanese lure makers as you can, because they're constantly innovating, and there's going to be some kind of, there's going to be something they're doing in Japan that you're gonna want to know how to do here. It's just they constantly are coming up with new techniques, new presentations, new lures. So I just think it makes a ton of sense if you kind of want to be on the cutting edge, if you will, of what's new in fishing. You got to be following what the Japanese are doing. They're just that good at really everything. Okay, so I'm just going to end it on this. We've had such crazy weather. And last week, I was like, oh my gosh, it's cold again. I mean, not cold again. It hasn't really been this cold this winter. But I guess cold again, like it's winter again and it's cold again. And I don't like this time of year as compared to the other years or other times of year, other seasons. Winter sucks, comparatively speaking. I'll deal with it. I'll ice fish, like I said earlier. But, I am not sad that we're having a big time warm up happening. And so, but it has been kind of like a bit confusing and hard to kind of figure out, what kind of fishing you should be doing, because we've gotten warm, we've gotten cold, and now we're getting warm again. And when I think about warm and cold, when I think about climate, I think about one person in particular. And I just saw this meme and I thought, yeah, that makes a ton of sense. Greta Thunberg here saying it's cold because it's hot. It makes total sense. I'm a huge fan of Greta. She doesn't seem to age at all. And maybe she's not even human, but she's got such a great message. She's spreading an important message, and a message of it's cold because it's hot. Let's end it at that. And I want to tell you how to find us. If you're just listening, you can watch this podcast, the video podcast. If you're just listening to this podcast on all the major podcasting apps, that's where it's available. You can watch this podcast going to the Angling Uploaded YouTube channel. Just search Angling Uploaded. Go to the playlist, the Angling, Another Fishing Podcast playlist on Angling Uploaded, our YouTube channel. You can watch the podcast that way. You can also find our content on Instagram. Search Angling Uploaded. We're there. And as I said just moments ago, you can find this podcast listening pleasure on all of the major podcasting apps. Thank you so much for listening, for watching. We'll be back next Monday, and it is going to be warm, y'all. Woo!